Welcome to Alpha Academy. I'm Gábor Nagy, adventure photographer and filmmaker from Hungary, and I'll be your lecturer today. In this masterclass, I'll talk about how I shot my latest documentary film called The Rift, Cycling Through Hell to Heaven. In the next 30 minutes or so, you will learn a lot about what Sony gear I used during the production of the film, how I was able to capture still images and motion picture at the same time. I will show you what settings I used and why during the shootings. What are the challenges to work in harsh conditions and how could Sony gear help my creative process? And in the end, I will share some behind the scenes and secret footages about the post-production of the film. Thanks for joining me today. So, without further ado, let's jump into the Rift. Let me introduce myself a bit. I'm a Sony Europe Imaging Ambassador from Hungary, and this is my second Sony Alpha Academy. I'm specialized in adventure and outdoor photography and filmmaking, and in regions like the Dolomites, the Alps, and the Arctic. My main focus is to showcase the strong connection between people and nature through my images. In the last 8 years, I worked with big brands like Nissan, Isidore, Dachstein shoes, and tourism boards like Visit Hungary, Garda Trentino, or Visit South Tyrol. I'm also a freelance creative director. I worked at Hungary's biggest advertising agency for more than 10 years and helped to grow the company from a small boutique agency to 100+ employee giant. In the last 5 years, I shifted my focus from capturing still images to telling stories through motion picture. This is how I was able to shoot films for Sony Europe, for example, in the high tetras about how I use Sony Alpha gear in the winter conditions.
This astonishing landscape is my second home. I come back to the high tetras pretty much every winter.
Or in Madeira, where we've spent over a month during COVID to shoot the launch video of the original Sony Alpha 1. In 2023, I felt I was ready to step forward again and started to work on my first proper documentary film. This is the story of The Rift.
So now we have January 2023 and the race, The Rift, is going to be in end of July, and it's going to be 6 months from now. And when I think about it, I imagine it, because I know Iceland, to be really brutal. Okay, I need some more air on the inside. Did it fall over?
Yeah.
Fuck.
It rolled over.
Fuck, I have a problem.
I told you not to leave it here in this wind.
So, in January 2023, I started to document the journey of Christoph Döttelmayer from training in the cold winter Alps to the finish line at the Rift gravel race in Iceland in July. Christoph is an enthusiastic amateur cyclist from Austria who loves everything he's doing, and still he needs to find time for training and racing next to his full-time job. The race is a 200-kilometer gravel race with almost 2,000 meters of elevation through the dark lava fields in the highlands of Iceland. The race is taking place on the tectonic split between North America and Eurasia. This is an ever-growing battlefield that grows an inch every single year. The battlefield sculpted by volcanic eruptions is vast, rugged, and unpredictable, making the Rift race a challenge of endurance, mental fortitude, and most likely the bare elements. And in the end, a gravel race between two continents. Since the Rift is a highly unique race, it attracts a multitude of people from all over the world, primarily Americans, as Iceland is located roughly halfway between North America and Europe. Every year, the world's best gravel riders measure their strengths on this incredibly challenging course. So, how did it all begin? In January 2023, Christoph messaged me about a new Austrian bike brand called One of One, which had taken him on as a sponsored cyclist. One of the year's most exciting events for them was to launch a new gravel bike, timed for the summer. It was unveiled live for the first time at the Rift race. And that's where I came into the picture. They needed professional photos and contents of the bike performing during the race. Although the original brief only included around 20 photos of Christoph tackling the Icelandic elements with the new bike during the race, I already sensed when they reached out that this project had far more creative potential and storytelling possibilities than just a standard photo shoot. So I decided to expand the scope into a 6-month documentation, culminating in a full-length documentary and a photo series. In terms of project timing, the announcement of the newly released Sony Alpha 7R5 couldn't have been more perfect. It's a dream camera I definitely wanted to test during the shoot. This is the flagship camera in my gear bag. Even before the project started, I knew that the images I'd creating would very likely be picked up by other brands as well, making the high resolution indispensable. The Alpha 7R5 features a 61 megapixel full-frame sensor, essentially delivering medium format quality. However, unlike traditional medium and large format digital cameras, it can continuously shoot up to 583 raw images at 10 frames per second, an astonishing capability for a camera with this resolution. Powered by the advanced Bion's XR processor, which offers an 8 times performance boost, this camera is incredibly fast. The speed is a game changer for me, especially when switching seamlessly between still photography and video. During the production, I primarily shot in 4K 25p, though the camera also supports 8K 25p, adding even more versatility in post. One of my favorite features is the new 4-axis LCD monitor, which allows flexible viewing and composing from virtually any angle. The improved 5-axis in-body image stabilization uses a gyro mechanism stabilizing the sensor, delivering results akin to using a dedicated stabilizer. While my lenses also feature stabilization, having it directly in the sensor takes things to the next level. But my favorite feature is the new real-time tracking autofocus with AI subject recognition. With the system, I barely need to think about focusing. Every shot is incredibly precise and tech-sharp. This allows me to focus entirely on composition, elevating the creative process. You can see the results I show you now. So, in January, I grabbed my new Sony Alpha 7R5 and started traveling to Salzburg to visit Christoph. I conducted interviews with him about his current mental state
And I shot photo series of him training for the race 6 months ahead, even in harsh winter conditions. You know, the summer athlete is built during the winter. After the cold and harsh shoots, I visited him again in the Alps in spring, continuously documenting his preparation. Eventually, 6 months passed and the vast amount of material had already been created. Then the moment for the trip to Iceland finally arrived.
Bye, man. Mr. Nagy. Hey. What's up?
What's up, dude?
I brought you something.
Hey, money!
I arrived in Iceland with the following gear. I usually transport my cameras and lenses with this Pelly case, but on production days I switched to my Shimoda Action X70 backpack. My cameras were the Sony Alpha 7R5 and the Sony Alpha 7S3. And I used the following lenses. The Sony FE 40mm f1.8 G Master, the Sony FE 35mm f1.4 G Master, the Sony FE 20-70 f4 G lens, and the mighty f100-400 G Master. For audio, I used two Sony ACM-B1M microphones and the lav mic. I recorded everything onto 0.5 terabyte Sony TUF cards in both cameras. And of course, I used some additional equipments like action cameras, a 360 camera, drone, a gimbal. Yeah, I think I used 3 SSDs for daily data backups. So I always had the A7R5 and the A7S3 on me at all times. My main camera setup was the Sony Alpha 7R5 with the Sony FE 40mm f1.8 G Master lens. I really love this lens because it provides an incredibly unique perspective for showcasing subjects. Its maximum aperture of f1.8 allows for a shallow depth of field and performs exceptionally well in low light. The adjustable aperture ring offer precise professional control, and they are essential for my video work. Despite being incredibly lightweight and compact, it delivers stunning image quality. And unlike fisheye lenses, this lens has minimal edge distortion, even with its ultra-wide perspective, making it a game changer for my work. My secondary camera was the Sony Alpha 7S3 with the Sony FE 20-70 f4 G lens. I used the Alpha 7S3 to capture super slow motion footages in 4K 120 frames per second. Both cameras support 10-bit 422 and S-Log free picture profile, making color grading seamless in post-production. The Sony FE 20-70 G lens was my go-to lens for a project like this. As you can see, it's super small and lightweight, and it's full-frame lens with the additional 4mm on the wide-angle side compared to my Sony FE 24-70 G Master. Its design has many features like the aperture ring with iris lock for professional control, 2 customizable focus hold buttons, 2 XD linear motors for fast, precise, and silent autofocus, well-controlled focus breathing for video shooting, and nano AR coating to suppress reflections and ghosting. This lens hit the sweet spot for me. It's wide enough for landscapes, but also compress foreground and background beautifully for a telephoto look. The lightweight and compact design of this lens is remarkable, and it has become a must-have in my kit for this project. This setup was perfect for capturing the stunning Icelandic landscapes and the action-packed moments of the Rift race. Let's talk about the challenges of the production, because we had a lot. One of the biggest challenges was multitasking. For example, while Christoph was assembling his bike, I had constantly thinking about, okay, I've taken photos of the bike build, but I need video footages as well. So I had to approach the shoot with both stills and motion in mind, often at the same time.
I love you. It's amazing to have you there always. It's the best thing.
Yeah, dude!
Fuck, it was so hard. It was the hardest race I've ever done.
Really?
Guys, fuck, it was so...
That's why it was crucial that both cameras allowed me to switch between photo and video modes instantly. Having two cameras also ensured that I covered from 40mm to 70mm, perfect for both wide shots and close-ups. Secondly, shooting during the race was a different kind of a challenge. I often worked with two cameras slung around my neck while my draw was already somewhere around my head, flying around. At the same time, the car was ready to race off to the next location to catch up with Christoph. The cameras and lenses handled the extreme conditions flawlessly. On such a grueling race, there's no time to clean your gear. So the cameras were hung around my neck all day, enduring dust, dirt, and the elements. As you can see in the footages, the race went through super remote areas. In these hard-to-reach regions, I managed to capture Christoph using my Sony FE100-400G master lens. So for the first time in my professional career, in a real-world scenario, I didn't have to worry about sharpness, because the AI autofocus on the new Sony Alpha 7R5 immediately locked onto Christoph, even from hundreds of meters away. The camera's ability to track him reliably with a nearly 100% hit rate at 10 frames per second was phenomenal. This let me focus entirely on composition rather than technical adjustments. So, starting at 400mm, I captured Christoph as he approached me, gradually zooming out to 100mm for dynamic framing as he got closer to me. The camera's performance was absolutely incredible, enabling me to deliver professional results in such a crazy place. So you might ask, what happened during the race? Well, I won't spoil it. Everyone should watch the film on YouTube. I'll just say this, we had our fair share of drama. But all's well that ends well, and Christoph managed to finish 28th out of around 500 riders. An incredible achievement for an amateur. At the finish line, I continued documenting Christoph's story of struggle and triumph. Although he was utterly exhausted, the joy was immense. And we even ran into Chris Burkhardt at the finish line, which was a fantastic bonus. After the race, I conducted a closing interview with Christoph and shot a photo series that perfectly captured his state. Completely drained, but deeply satisfied. Then I told him, okay Christoph, good job. Take a rest, but don't wash your kit because tomorrow we are riding the entire course again. Why? Because during the race there were sections of the route, some of the most visually stunning ones, that I couldn't safely follow Christoph with my car. So for the film's sake, I knew we had to go back and cover those places. So the next day, Christoph retraced the entire route in the same dirty kit, with the same muddy bike, utterly exhausted, but thankfully just as motivated. This second day allowed me to capture shots I couldn't get during the race, including some close-up slow-motion footages. I filmed these while running alongside Christoph with a gimbal in hand. The Sony Alpha 7S3 paired with the Sony FE35 f1.4G Master was mounted on this gimbal. Running around 20 kilometers per hour, I stayed ahead of Christoph and shooting backwards, as I relied entirely on the autofocus, filming blindly with the full confidence in my gear. And the results? Dynamic, cinematic shots that became essential for the final cut of the film. These close-up, slow-motion clips added an intense, visceral perspective to the story, showcasing Christoph's determination and the raw beauty of the Icelandic terrain.
Now we're gonna do a follow shot. I'm gonna try to run in front of you and somehow
We spent about 2 months on the film's post-production, working through editing, color grading, and even redoing the sound design to bring everything to life. The world premiere of the film and its public screenings were a huge success. Hopefully we can showcase the film in a few film festivals as well this year. So, what are my key takeaways of today's Alpha Academy? First, dream big. You can create a huge hit from the smallest projects as well. Because even though the original brief was just to take a few images of the race, it ended up to become a short documentary that can inspire people to push their boundaries as well. Second takeaway, trust your gear and let the latest technology work for you. Switching between stills and movie modes seamlessly, letting the real-time AI autofocus do its job, never doubting the toughness of the cameras and lenses, even in the harshest conditions. And third, and probably that's the most important one, have fun during the day. Because at the end, you are doing what you love the most, telling stories with a camera in your hand. Or in my case, with two.
Come on, dude. Come on.
Camera's ready. Mic's gonna ready.
Job done. Production done.
So thank you so much for joining me once again on the Sony Alpha Academy, where I've had the pleasure of sharing behind-the-scenes details from my latest film. Be sure to watch the Rift Cycling Through Hell to Heaven on my YouTube channel. And see you at my next Sony Alpha Academy.